Cavity which is present in sit down, man. The cavity that is present in the cerebral hemispheres is called as the lateral ventricle. In this picture you can see here. So this is the one lateral ventricle. Okay. This is the other. Yes. Okay. So this is the model, very beautiful model explaining you the whole of the ventricular system of the brain. Yes. So this is one cerebral hemisphere, left cerebral hemisphere, this is right cerebral hemisphere. See here, these are only the cavities. Yes. This is the left ventricle, lateral ventricle, and this is the right lateral ventricle. Okay. Okay. See here, center, this is what is the third ventricle. So this is the duct. Yes. This is the fourth. This is the fourth ventricle. From here, the foramen of Lushka and foramen of Meganji, it will pass through the subarachnoid space. Am I clear? So it's very clear here, I guess. So these are the lateral ventricles which are again C-shaped. Okay? So this is the third ventricle, the central part. This is the third ventricle, this is the fourth ventricle. This is the duct connecting that. Am I clear? Yeah? Yeah, let me explain it. Wait. So now we study only the lateral ventricle now. Okay? So lateral ventricle, as I said, it is C-shaped. Okay? Having different parts. So what are the parts of the third ventricle? So this is the picture. I will explain this model. Okay? So you have one horn which is extending into the frontal lobe. That is called as anterior horn. This is the body of the lateral ventricle which is there in the parietal lobe or even part of the frontal lobe also. Parietal lobe. Okay? So this is what we call it the posterior horn which is in the occipital lobe. Yes. Am I clear? Yes. And this is what is the inferior horn which goes to the temporal lobe. Okay. And this posterior horn, inferior horn and body, this area they meet here, right? Yes. This area is called as trigone. This triangular area, this is called as trigone. Anterior horn, the body, the posterior horn and the inferior horn. So these are the cavities. The anterior horn in the frontal lobe, posterior horn in the occipital lobe, inferior horn in the temporal lobe. So where is that one more model I brought? Yeah, I can see it here. See here? So this is what is the anterior horn. So this see here, this probe is going deep. This all is the cavity inside. Okay? So this is the body part. Okay? If you go even behind, see here, it is going behind, right? Into the occipital lobe. This is the posterior horn. Even if you go down also, it will go. That is, it will go into the temporal lobe. That is the inferior horn. Am I clear? So anterior horn. Anterior horn. This is the frontal lobe, right? Anterior horn. Look here. Okay? Going deep. And then the posterior horn. And then inferior horn. Am I clear? Yeah. Exactly, where is this model? Exactly like this. If I put here, so it will be like this. Anterior, posterior, inferior. So inside you find something, right? So these are what we call it as the tila choroida and the choroid plexus, which secretes CSF. Yeah? This is what is the trigone area we can say. Where this is the inferior horn, this is the posterior horn. This is the trigone area. Okay? So this is one more picture showing you one more, where is it? Yeah. So this is the occipital side, right? You can say exactly at the center. Where is the section here in this model? The same. Okay, where is the section here? It is in the parietal lobe. Am I clear? Yes. Parietal lobe area, there is a section. So that means what? Which part of the lateral ventricle is this? This is the body part. The central part. The section is here. Okay? Okay, the body part we have taken a section to showing you the body of the lateral ventricles. Okay? So now we'll learn about the relations of the anterior horn, posterior horn and inferior horn as the location is different. Anterior horn is in the frontal lobe, posterior horn is in the occipital lobe, inferior horn is in the temporal lobe. And the trunk also. So this is again one more picture where the middle of, you can say the section, this section is like this, you can say. Yeah. where the center it is taken section
Yes.
to expose the cavity of the lateral ventricle, the whole section. Okay, so to show you the anterior horn, this is what is the body,
Body,
the posterior
inferior,
horn, and then the
inferior.
inferior horn. You do understand?
Yes.
Okay? Yeah. So now, sit down, sit down.
مطولين يا الرب استهدوا بالله.
So what is this section? The similar section, the same section, horizontal section in the frontal lobe. In the frontal lobe. So if when you take this section is where is this section? It is in the parietal lobe. So if I take a section here in the frontal lobe, it appears like this. Okay? To show you the anterior horn. To show you the anterior horn. Okay? So this is the roof, the floor, medial wall, and the lateral wall. Did you understand?
Yeah.
The roof, the lateral wall, the medial wall, and the floor you can say. So what is there in the roof? The forceps minor. Corpus callosum. Forceps minor of the corpus callosum, right? So what is there on the lateral wall? It is the caudate nucleus. Caudate nucleus.
Yes.
Okay? What is there medially? Septum pellucidum. So roof, what is find? Corpus callosum.
Yeah.
What is there in the lateral wall? You have the caudate nucleus. What is medial? You have the septum pellucidum. Am I clear? That forms the anterior horn relations. So when you go to the body, what do you find? This is the section of the same. See, this is exactly the same.
Yes.
Okay? To show you the cavity in the body. What is there again above? See here. So very, very clear here. See, what are these fibers? See here. This is the corpus callosum.
Yes.
I said this is caudate nucleus. This is thalamus. These are the tila choroida. See here inside.
Yeah.
Very beautiful section this is.
Yes.
So this is what is the corpus callosum. See the white fibers, the roof. So this is the cavity of the third ventricle, the trunk part. This is what is the caudate nucleus. Put light. This is the caudate nucleus. Light. This is caudate nucleus. This is thalamus. Inside, see, these are the tila choroides. See this picture, line picture, line diagram. Corpus callosum. Are you following? Yes. The lowermost part is the fornix, the center. This is the fornix. Inside, what you see is the tila choroide. This is the caudate nucleus. This is the caudate nucleus. This is the thalamus. This is what is the thalamus. Thalamus. Okay, this is the third ventricle. Exactly like this. See here. This is the third ventricle. Am I clear? So this is what is the relations of the body. Roof is formed by corpus callosum. You can say the floor from lateral to medial side. It is by caudate nucleus, the thalamus, then the tila choroida, and then the fornix. Am I clear?
The symptom where is it's supposed to be between the corpus callosum and
What?
the septum.
So it is slightly at I think the slightly at the posterior part. As you come posterior side, look here, the septum pellucidum. Anterior side it is very, the gap is more. So you find more septum pellucidum. If the section is taken slightly on the posterior side, septum pellucidum will be very small. Depends on what level of section. Okay? Yes, that is about the body. And then about the posterior horn. Where is the posterior horn? In the occipital lobe. Very good. So where is that one more horizontal section? Yes. So this is the section slightly. You can say it as above the ventricle. If you go deep, you can. I think you find the what is that ventricular posterior horn cavity. But what I mean to show you, this is what is the cavity. See here.
Yes.
The trigone area. Which if you pass probe, it will go down into the posterior horn. So just below this is the. If you take a section, one more section here, you will expose the cavity of this posterior horn. Okay. So why I am showing this is just to explain the relation. See here, what you find here? The forceps major. Okay?
Yes.
So which will form an elevation within the wall. This is the forceps major. This is the posterior horn.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, this is forceps major. It forms a bulge in the cavity of the posterior horn.
Okay.
Bulge by the forceps major. So what is that called as? Bulge of the posterior horn.
Okay.
Down below that, even you find the calcarine sulcus. Where is the calcarine sulcus? Here you find the calcarine sulcus on the medial side, right?
Yeah.
So that also forms bulge in the posterior horn. Here you find the calcarine sulcus, right? So it will form one more bulge into the cavity of the posterior horn. That is called as calcar avis. What is that called as? Calcar avis. So calcar avis on the medial surface. This is what is calcarine sulcus. That because of the sulcus is deep. See, look here. Consider this as the calcarine sulcus.
Okay.
Okay? So this bulging causes, this sulcus causes bulging in the posterior horn.
Yes.
Above the forceps major, below by the calcarine sulcus bulge. That is called as calcar avis. Okay? So these are the features in the posterior horn. So when you go to the inferior horn, so this is like this, in the temporal lobe.
Yes.
In the temporal lobe. So again same. So one bulging from the hippocampus.
Okay. Yeah.
Hippocampal, parahippocampal gyrus, and one bulging by the collateral sulcus.
Okay.
You had collateral sulcus, right? The inferior side. Inferior side, this is the collateral sulcus.
Yes.
So this sulcus forms bulging in the, this, where you find inferior horn within this, inside this temporal lobe. So this is the sulcus, which forms an elevation in the cavity. That is called as the collateral sulcus elevation, and one by the hippocampus. Okay, so that is the hippocampus elevation, and that is the collateral eminence. Okay, so whereas the majority of this roof and all, it is formed by the same corpus callosum, the fibers. The posterior most fibers of the corpus callosum are called as tapetum and the splenium. Okay, so they all. So important thing is you should know the relations of the inside this elevation. So in the inferior horn you find the elevations of the hippocampus and the collateral sulcus, whereas in the posterior horn you find the elevation by the forceps major and then the calcarine sulcus. That is calcarine avis. Okay, so that's about the lateral ventricle, which is C-shaped, having anterior horn, posterior horn, inferior horn, the body and the trigone. Okay, so where is the anterior horn? It is in the frontal lobe. Where is the posterior horn? It is in the occipital lobe. Where is the inferior horn? It is in the temporal lobe. The body mainly in the parietal lobe. Okay, so that's all about the lateral ventricle. So if you want to look into the models, so make, so you divide among yourself groups.
About the left posterior face.
Yeah, you yourself make it. Okay.
What should know on the lateral surface and the median?